There are very few cases where a dead franchise has come back to life. And this story right here is about one of the most resilient video games that just wouldn't be put down. Not even by closure of studio or catastrophic act of God would Zettai Zetsumi Toshi 4 Plus Summer Memories stay dead. Stories like this are why I make videos, and I'm really excited to share one of my favorite franchises with you. Let's get it going. So let's get the name out of the way. Zettai Zetsumi Toshi roughly translates from Japanese to English into Desperate City, but over in the West it's sort of known by the Disaster Report moniker, and some people across the pond know it as the s.o.s franchise. Look, I'm just gonna call it Disaster Report or ZZT4. I've already covered the first game in the series on my channel. Go check out that video if you haven't, because it'll provide some necessary context to what this series is all about. Too long didn't watch Compasses. For such a low-budget series, they have the highest amount of ambition when it comes to story trees and multiple endings, the amount of unlockable costumes, and they provide you with a different sense of horror, the one that's more closer to home, because some of this shit could actually happen. Oh, and some of this shit actually did happen, and that's partially responsible for why Disaster Report 4 almost disappeared forever. Disaster Report 4 was set to be the most ambitious entry into the series yet, and it was originally in development for Sony's PlayStation 3. To showcase how big and bad this game was gonna be, series director Kazuma Kujo touted about how this game was gonna feature over 60 brand new characters. Can you believe they can put that on a Blu-ray? Not only that, but for a series first, there would be a character creator for the protagonist. But we're not stopping there. The madman decided to throw away the moisture meter from Raw Danger and replace it with a cleanliness system where your character would get stressed out from crawling through all those weather-torn buildings, or if it had been a while since the last time they took in a shit. I ain't messing around. If you don't take a shit in this game, you will die. Kazuma Kujo breaking all the rules and incorporating the stools. Video essay time. Disaster Report 4, or should I say 2? Why poop matters in video games, and what it told me about my own scat fetish, an annotated bibliography of all of video games porcelain plops, featuring a YouTube collab by Poop Dude 18. According to the developer, back in 2010, he said, in my game, you take a shit. Valuable contribution, Poop Dude. It really sounded like you care about this game and have played it at one time. Thank you for the collaboration. The initial release date for Zettai Zetsumi Toshi 4 Plus Summer Memories was slated for March 10th of 2011, but was delayed to later that spring due to Kujo citing the need for more time to finish development. However, in a bizarre case of dramatic irony, one day after its initial release date, on March 11th, 2011, the Tohoku earthquake hit Japan, and the earthquake triggered a tsunami, which was also responsible for the deaths of nearly 16,000 Japanese citizens, as well as destroying the Fukushima nuclear reactor, leaving millions without power and the surrounding areas contaminated by radiation. 3 days later, on March 14th, Disaster Report 4 was officially canceled, leaving the future of the series unknown. After the earthquake, Disaster's production company, IRIM, ended its long history of video game development. The very same March, IRIM canceled all current developments on video game projects, one of which happened to be a sequel to Steambot Chronicles, also known as Bumpy Trot in Japan. They then pivoted the company's direction to exclusively making Panchico machines, a tale as old as time. Suffice it to say, the 2011 earthquake shook up the Japanese gaming industry, and it was heavily ingrained in the public consciousness at the time. So much so that other games set to release in that time frame were also affected firsthand. Other games with apocalyptic settings were also facing significant delays, such as Sony's MotorStorm Apocalypse, as well as Sega's Ryoga Gotaku of the End, also known as Yakuza Dead Souls, a non-canonical addition to the beloved franchise, which was slated for release 6 days after the earthquake on March 17th, but was publicly delayed by Sega until June 9th of the same year, likely due to the setting of the game taking place in a zombie apocalyptic Kamurocho, which was modeled after Tokyo. The good news is, 1 month later in April of 2011, Kazuma Kujo left IRIM to form his own game studio, Granzella. At the time of its founding, Granzella did not have the rights to the series any longer, so like many developers that leave a former company to form their own, they began to work on a spiritual successor to the game they were known best for, and they called it Kaiyoe Toshi, also known as City Shrouded in Shadow, which is centered around a group of survivors trying to stay alive in a city that's currently being attacked by kaiju. It's really fucking cool, and I'll cover more in a future video, I promise. In 2014, Granzella announced that it had acquired the rights to the Disaster series from IRIM, and subsequently re-released Disaster 1 and 2 on the PlayStation Network. In an interview with Famitsu, Kazuma Kujo stated, "We'll keep at it no matter how long it takes, and never give up, I'll keep going." He then announced plans to pick up development on the once abandoned Disaster Report 4, anticipating a release of fall of 2015, another date which Granzella would sadly miss. The game would then later be delayed an additional 4 times before its final release date of October 25th of 2018. Now, before we get this started, I have some good news and some bad news. The good news is Disaster Report 4 is region-free and fairly cheap to acquire. The bad news is the language barrier is quite large, as this is the kind of game where you are posed constant morality choices at every turn. I would rank this just below the Yakuza series in terms of the amount of Japanese you'll need to have a handle on before you can navigate your way through the game. Now, if you've been hanging with this channel for a while, you'll know that I'm not one to let a little language barrier get in the way of my good time, so I developed something I'd like to call the Hikiko Method. Here are the materials you'll need to use the Hikiko Method: a Japanese video game, a separate monitor, a Samsung Galaxy S7 with a good camera on it, with Google Home and Google Translate downloaded on it, a tripod with a phone mount grip, one Google Chromecast, and one 3-pound bag of expired peanut M&Ms. Optional. First, hook up your external monitor and put it in a place where you can see it clearly. 2. Take your Google Chromecast and find a USB port on your TV, then plug it in. 3. Using your phone, pair your device using Google Home, or in some cases, you may just be able to cast your screen directly to the Chromecast device. Make sure you follow all the manufacturer instructions to get it paired. Step 4. Once you've mirrored your phone screen to the Chromecast, attach the phone to the tripod mount and line it up with your TV in the areas in which text most frequently appears in the game. Step 5. Launch Google Translate and set it up to wherever it says Japanese to English, and then hit the camera button. See that little eyeball? Make sure it's open. That's the live translation feature, wherein the application attempts to translate all the Japanese kanji on the screen and superimpose other languages over it in a hodgepodge jarbled fashion that sometimes makes no sense. Step 6, kick back and relax and eat all those expired M&Ms because you just put NIS out of business, baby. An alternative method is leaving the phone where it is and using its snap feature, where you can take individual still shots and then manually translate what you need. Then put the phone to rest when you're not using using it. I'm not gonna tell you what to do. Choose your own destiny, pal. And that, my friends, is the Hikiko Method. That was the Hikiko Method. If you see anyone online using the Hikiko Method, well, at least send me a penny on Patreon and everything's square. You have to say the words Hikiko Method when you use it. That's really the only condition I have. Thank you for your time. So the game kicks off with the aforementioned character creator that allows you to customize either a male or female protagonist. Now, I tried to model my character after the localization practices of Age Tech. Ah, that looks pretty good. I'll call you Kathy McDonald's, the most American name I can think of. So the story goes, Kathy is traveling through town on her way to a job interview, but she may have deeper motives depending on the morality choices you make for her. Like the games to come before it, Disaster prides itself in letting you take the reins of where you want your character and their story to go. Just moments after Kathy's arrival, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake strikes the city, and you better keep your finger on the oh shit button if you know what's good for you. Alright, so you have a few things to account for in terms of your character. In the top left, you have an HP bar in green and a stress bar in purple. Your stress rises when Kathy takes damage, gets dirty, hungry, or if it's been a while since her last BM. And you can relieve your stress by going to a save point and clicking on the relieve stress button, or by eating food, drinking water, or swapping out your clothes. All the stuff you loved about the prior Disaster Report games are here and accounted for. Primarily, the cool compasses that you can collect on the ground and mix and match to represent your personality. I like this one. Kathy can also mix and match clothing articles that she finds throughout the world, which she'll have to change out anytime one of the articles gets wet or dirty. You get some really cool combinations. In addition, Kathy can now pick up hidden information about how to survive in a real-life disaster to fill out the disaster manual. Kazuma Kujo worked with the Kobe Fire Department to help provide accurate information on what to do when faced with a natural disaster. It's kind of cool to think one day Disaster Report may actually save some lives. Hey, at the very least, it'll teach you the importance of matching the perfect backpack to your fast food worker garb. And that kind of information is invaluable. So each level is dedicated to a section of the city that you have to gather clues in order to find a way to escape from it and move on. As you play, earthquakes will ravage the city and terraform new platforms or entrances for you to explore. There's a button to brace yourself when the earthquakes hit, and that'll prevent you from losing HP, but sometimes you'll die due to debris hitting you anyway. Reloading doesn't take too long, so it's never a burden. As you explore the city, you'll find a couple of different modes of transportation besides your 2 feet to change things up. So far, I've only found this jank raft that controls like a butt and the world's shortest moped ride before the game takes it away from you forever. There is a crafting system here too, but it doesn't seem to be as sophisticated as the one featured in Raw Danger. There's only a few times in the game where you'll be required to combine items to make a tool needed for progress. As you navigate the world, you'll make friends, you'll meet some weirdos, and come across people to rescue or... Hello? Die! Or meet people to rescue or extort for money. It's entirely up to you. I'm torn on whether or not this game is supposed to be taken seriously or not. This game walks a fine line between informative and completely fucking insensitive at all times, and I kinda love it. Kathy, what are you doing? Are you gonna check at least one of their pulses or something? Somebody could still be alive. Oh, it's a stray kitten in a cardboard box. Maybe I can take it with me. Hold that thought, I'll be right back. Oh. Now you'd think not speaking Japanese would remove a lot of the impact of the scenes and be a major barrier to just enjoying the game, but it's not as bad as you might think. Even though I didn't know shit from Shinola, I still managed to become an end of days cult leader and recruit 10 people to my flock, taking all their money and cutting off all their family ties. I consider that a modest success in overcoming the language barrier. For the most part, I didn't have a clue what was going on, but I still had a good time and made it through a decent chunk of the game by just exhausting all the dialogue trees and exploring on my own. Make your own story. Aside from the mixed performance and language barrier, the only other issue I suffered was the spotty climbing mechanics that are needed to get to the next story trigger moment. About halfway through the game, Kathy will come across a train platform that's stopped. Now I talked to everyone and I clicked on everything for hours. I exhausted all of my options and I was about to give up. This was the biggest roadblock I encountered. Well, it turns out it all came down to me finding this tiny little ledge that takes me to the upper platform, but for whatever dumb reason, Kathy just wouldn't grab on it. Look how ridiculously long this takes. But I did get this awesome Tengu mask for my troubles afterwards, so I don't think I'm allowed to be mad. One unique aspect that makes Disaster Report 4 stand out among the rest of the series is by far the VR mode. As you clear a chapter, you unlock the VR version of the same level you cleared. Now there isn't any major objective to these VR missions beyond finding the exit, but you can find these bonus Disaster Report logos within the level, which will unlock bonus content in the main game for you. Here's the deal. The game works surprisingly well as a first-person survival horror, more so than a third-person adventure game, and I'm not kidding. Just traversing the lonely subway tunnels and hearing the aftershocks rocking the place made me actually feel kinda creeped out. Although it feels like I'm navigating a PlayStation 2 game with all the Gaussian blur in my ocular field, I felt genuinely invested in unlocking and playing through these VR levels. If nothing else, Granzella should just polish up the VR mode a little and hand it off to some localization company. It really wouldn't take too much effort, since there's virtually no dialogue spoken in these missions. Once further, Disaster Report offers that close-to-home horror that you don't experience in your typical supernatural jump scare house affair. I want more VR experiences like this one. To close out this video, I don't know if Disaster 4 will ever make it to the West. I'm hoping so, but considering that the game only sold 40,000 copies in Japan, I'm not entirely convinced it will. Now, from what I've gathered, Kazuma Kujo saw those numbers as a great success, and he's in the middle of the planning stages for a follow-up to this game. I'll definitely pick it up if he does. Whatever the future brings for this series, I will always remember one thing about my time with Disaster Report 4. Kathy McDonald's peas standing up. Hey guys, Miles here. This is a video I never wanted to make, but I figured I should to set the record straight. I just read the Poop Dude 18 Google Doc, and it's so... Look, I just want to say that I completely disavow his actions. I really didn't know the guy all that well, and the only reason I ever collaborated with Poop Dude was because he had more subs than me, and that's the God's honest truth. I'm not gonna take down the video, and I'm gonna leave it monetized for now until I just get my head straight. You think you know a guy that you met on the internet for a mutual benefit of sub for sub, and then you read his Google Doc and you find out he traveled across states to play with underage turds. He was grooming those turds all along. There were 6 people in the room that witnessed him. There were 6 people in the room at that party, and they witnessed him allowing people to fondle his turds. Nobody said anything. I'm still subscribed to him, and I am looking forward to his future Sonic videos.